Welcome to the Gen Z Journey, where we work with you through an entrepreneurial lens to build a wholesome perspective on life and build both our business and personal dreams together. Join our community on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Gen Z Journey. So, hello and welcome to another Gen Z Journey podcast, and it feels awesome to be back. We have taken a little break. It was meant to be 2 weeks. It's turned into about a month, just with a bunch of personal stuff going on with college and work and a bunch of changes going on for me personally and also for Aaron, which we'll just touch on a little bit in a minute. But yeah, we're really excited to be back and with a slightly new format, helped with the expertise of Yadira, which is awesome. But yeah, how are we all doing? How has this last 3-4 weeks been to rejuvenate and get ready back for the podcasting?
For me, hasn't really been that rejuvenating, if I'm honest. It's been very tedious, just job searching and trying to figure out life and figure out where I'm going with everything. My adventures haven't taken off as well as I'd like to, and I do need a source of income. So that's kind of been what I've been revolving my life around the most, is just job searching and trying to figure that out. But besides that, it's been great. I've had a blast. I've been working on training my puppy, and so it's been an awesome adventure to have. So, yeah. What about you, Yadira?
All right, so first I like to excuse myself for this bummy look, but things have been going all right. Just really stressful with school because, as much as we're doing online, this whole year has just been online. I still can't find that motivation to do school. And on top of that, there's applications since I want to transfer next year. And there's like a lot of family things going on. So it's kind of a stressful moment in my life, but I'm glad to be here on the podcast, doing some recordings. Excited about the topic for today. So
Absolutely, and yeah, we'll dive into that. And for myself, it's been a good period. It's been a time of change for me, for sure. I went on a little vacation, which was very fun, and over that time, I realized that I need to cut down on the variety of things I was doing and focus more of my time on a few things that I'm doing. One of which obviously is the podcast, because I love doing that. The other being video editing, which I'm really passionate about, and then of course the third being college. So I'm really focused down on those three things now, and it's super fun to be able to do all of those few things and learn through those experiences. But that's it for kind of personal stuff and the fact that we're happy to be back. And we're going to get onto this first week's topic of the environment and sustainability. And we're going to particularly focus on how we believe that both us and our generation have really started to develop an awareness of the environment that's been more than previous generations before us. And I think that's something we all feel very passionate about, and why we're excited to bring this topic. And I wanted to highlight one little thing before we get into the content of it, and the fact that actually this is going to be the new format of the podcasting. These weekly discussions that we're going to have are going to be based around Gen Z topics, is what we're naming them. So it's going to be things about environmentally friendly and sustainable things like that, things like social media, mental health, all of those different things that really impact our generation and are very much in our pop culture. We're going to be discussing in these midweek sessions. So without further ado, let's get into things. And I believe, Aaron, you have the first point to get us started on this discussion.
Yeah, and so I want to bring in this whole discussion with actually something that's happening in California, where obviously Rio and Yadira live. But the governor recently signed a law passing the banning of all cars by 2035 that are gas powered. And that was a big step towards environmental sustainability, because it really shows that people are becoming more and more aware of the damage they cause. And that self-awareness and being able to understand that is really important to just doing business in general and doing any kind of business, whether you're the one being the business owner or you're the consumer. It's important to note that and be mindful of the products you're purchasing and how they impact the environment. And so there's a lot of business competition that has actually been created by laws being passed like that. So if we look at companies like General Motors, Ford, Tesla, Nikola, all these companies have really been competing towards making electric vehicles, and it's created a whole new industry of business. You know, there was no competition for environmental sustainability, but in the recent years, really the last 2, 3, 4 years, there's been a lot of new pop-ups of various startups in all kinds of industries to really help create environmentally sustainable products. And so all these vehicles, you know, in the example of California, we have Tesla creating production of like electric vehicles at all-time highs, and you know, they're planning on dropping their price point for their vehicles to $25,000 for a vehicle with the ability to drive itself by 2023. And so you think about that, and that's so competitive, and it's creating a whole new industry for the car industry to compete in. And then there's all the other kind of businesses that we're going to get into, and we want to talk about a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think Elon Musk must be rubbing his hands together right now. He can't wait for the next few years. But Yadira, I think you had a point as well on that of how like kind of electronics and stuff has been such an important part of the journey now for college students, right?
For sure. Like there's like especially now with online classes, I feel like there's this huge transition of doing everything like on paper, using paper textbooks. And of course this has been a gradual change over the years. But into like going into more like everything like electronic, you know, with doing your notes on an iPad or something, or using an ebook on your laptop, which is much more sustainable than using paper because you're not killing trees. And the what's it called, the footprint of a laptop is much less than like any other stuff. Like a desktop leaves a larger carbon footprint than a laptop, so the smaller we get, I guess, would be better. And yeah, I think it's going in the right direction, and I think it's really useful because just recently I used Joe's iPad for note taking, and I like it way better than paper. So
A cool college tip going off of that, you know, is not only is it more efficient in terms of the environment and just being conscious of what you're doing, but it's actually better for college students because big secret, you click Control F and you can find what you're looking for in a textbook without having to flip pages, right? So it's not only better for the environment, but it's better for the students. So
exactly. During quizzes, just searching up the answers.
Definitely, but I think that'd be a cool point just to spend a little bit of time on actually, is how, just to address it actually you Yadira more. But for me, the transition. So this is the iPad that I have, and it's you have the pen and you can just take notes as if you're on a pad and a pen. And initially, I was worried that this would not be realistic. It would not feel like pen and paper. It would like I'd really struggle with it. I'd be slower. But after using it for now, I've had this for like a year and a half. And it's made my learning way more efficient because when I'm taking notes, I can switch pens quicker than I can switch a physical pen. My drawings, because I'm a very visual learner, I like to do like mind maps and circles and different things. All of them can be done like with perfection. You can just draw a circle, hold it, and it creates a perfect circle and things like that. So that really makes a difference for me in my learning. So I think it's a cool thing for us to address as young people, that actually technology is at a point now where using something like that is very, very feasible and is not as difficult as it used to be. And Yadira, I think you had that revelation when you used mine a little bit, right?
100%. Because when I do note taking and stuff, I like color coordinating and having things organized in a certain way, and doing it with paper. This totally sounds like a promo video, but it's not. Um, promoting the iPads, but it's not. It's like it's totally way more efficient. You know, instead of changing from pencil to pen and stuff like that, I just tab the pen, the what's it called, the pencil, whatever, to change from like pencil to eraser, or then I could just change colors on the iPad super quickly, and it's way more efficient and it's so much more organized. Like I don't have paper cluttered everywhere. My textbooks aren't all over the place and stuff. All the papers everywhere. I have everything more compact, which is so much better because I feel like when you're a student, you tend to get a little bit more unorganized because you have so many things going on, which I've recently noticed in my life. But yeah, really, really great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another area in which obviously young people are very, very interested in is the fashion industry related to kind of the environment and how it impacts it. And shockingly, I did this research on this, or no, actually, I'm not taking credit for that. Yadira did the research, and she found that Americans throw away 10.5 million tons of clothing a year, per year, that is. And that was according to the students of the Environmental Resource Center in UC Berkeley. So to me, that was just an incredible fact. And so I wanted to go and find some companies and products or whatever that are related to kind of combating this and the way in which we approach fashion. And the first one I found was actually just came up on my Instagram recently, and it's a company called Drip. It's spelled DRIHP. And it's clothing made from hemp, which is a variation of a cannabis plant. And it's been kind of pushed by a couple of influencers. People may know, like Jay Alvarez. He's one of the models for them, and he's pushing the product. So it's a really interesting product, and the way in which they're environmentally friendly is that hemp obviously grows a lot quicker than a lot of other plants that they use in the fashion industry. And their big claim is that they use 1,250 liters less water per shirt than the average t-shirt in the fashion industry, which I thought was pretty incredible. And a couple of other little facts that they claim that they have as well is that 1 acre of hemp produces more of the air we breathe than 25 acres of trees. And then they also replenish about 6,000 times faster than trees for wood-based products. So they're very much pushing this whole idea that they're very much environmentally friendly and trying to make an impact on the way in which we think about our clothing is produced, and making us more aware of how our clothing is produced, which I think is awesome.
What's even cooler is that something like hemp is actually even more durable. So even though, and not only is it cost saving, but there's actually a lot of studies that show that hemp is a lot more durable than something like cotton or polyester. It can be a lot easier and better to purchase that product, and it'll also last you longer. So it's a more bang for your buck.
And also, I'd like to add this thrift shopping, how that's such a helpful, method of buying clothing for the environment. It's super sustainable, and it's like, so a couple benefits that it has is that it's cheaper, you're helping the environment, and some of the clothes is like super cool. And recently I feel there's like so many more thrift stores popping up, and that now is also part of the current fashion, which is further like pushing that what's it called, pushing that trend towards like thrift shopping, which is really good for our pocket and the environment.
Exactly. I did some thrift shopping while I was on vacation, and I really enjoyed it. Bought some awesome clothes. So yeah, it's again, that's what I think we're emphasizing in this podcast. It's just about awareness of like, okay, like what's the product that I'm buying? What impact does it really have? How is it produced? Where is it coming from? All of those different things. It's like you don't have to try very hard to become environmentally friendly. I think that's something that people have for a long time, like, oh my God, like you gotta like grow all your own food, and you've gotta wear like no leather and all of this kind of stuff. And you can do those things. You don't have to like just become a complete like environmental freak. You can just be conscious about how you're impacting the environment, and that can make more of an impact than anything. Because if we're all a little bit more aware, then exactly. That's where I'm starting right now. Yadira's been a big influence on me, helping me with my kind of meat intake. I was having on average between about probably about 5 to 6 servings of meat a day. And servings is not types. Servings is not types. I'll make that point. but I would definitely have some at lunch and always have some at dinner, and I would have a lot of it. And so she's been explaining to me how I don't have to have that much. I can still have meat, but I can have like 1 to 2 servings a day. And then the other stuff I can replace with like corns, nuts, all of those stuff. You still get protein in many, many other ways. So that's been a cool journey for me.
And what's even better about that is actually there's been a lot of science that shows that meat can actually be bad for you, and it can actually clog up your arteries, and it can clog up your veins, and it can make you lethargic. Yeah, it can make you lethargic right after eating it. And so not only is it not the best thing for you all the time, and I'm not saying drop meat, because I still eat meat because I love the taste of it, don't get me wrong, but I used to eat meat almost every day with every single meal when I 2 years ago. And once I met my girlfriend, I started slowly dropping off that habit because she never really ate meat. And it's really fascinating because something like meat is actually very environmentally unsustainable. To make just 1 pound of meat of beef, it takes almost 2,400 gallons of water just for 1 pound of meat. And that's something someone eats in one meal. So imagine 2,400 gallons of water going into that. And so you take out 1 pound of meat from your dinner, and there you go. You just did a big change to environmental sustainability and doing your part towards helping the environment. And you don't have to go to the extreme. You actually reminded me of Animal, Vegetables, and Miracles, actually, that we were talking about the other day. In that book, even though they took it to the extreme and they became farmers and everything moved into the middle of nowhere to be sustainable, you don't have to do it. It's the small actions that count. And if we all collaborate together as a generation to make those small actions, they turn into big actions and big impact.
Exactly.
Another quick thing I want to like emphasize is like this whole factory farming thing that has a lot to do with meat consumption, obviously, because that's where they raise the animals, how that affects the environment greatly, and supporting your local markets and stuff, and buying more locally instead of buying from like big stores that produce these that are coming from big companies that damage the environment. It's much better to stay local. And I feel like that kind of like carries on to like this the topic of more like the food and house supplies industry with sustainability. So there's this store in Los Angeles that I heard of through like a Snapchat story that I thought was super cool. It's called Tear, and it sells like nuts and like grains and like just a bunch of food that you can buy by like the pound. You bring your own bags, own containers, and you just fill them up and you weigh it, and that's how much you pay by the weight. And it's obviously much more sustainable because you're not using plastic bags or anything. You're not using single-use containers, and there's not a ton of packaging that's being used up for the products. And some house supply stuff that I always get like ads on Instagram about these kinds of products because I just follow a lot of like sustainable accounts and stuff, and that's like my thing of interest is bamboo paper towels or toilet paper and stuff, because again, more sustainable. They do bamboo farming, and the bamboo takes about, I think I read 2 years to grow. There's like special bamboo that they use for it, and they replant it and stuff. So it's super cool. And a couple of companies are already doing that. And then like more towards the beauty industry, there's these yeah, I guess like health, like body care and stuff. It would be this razor company called Leaf Leaf Shave. Shoot, I forgot the name. Sorry. I have it on my Instagram, but I think it's Shave Leaf or Leaf Shave. And they do razors that are completely plastic free. They're made out of metal, and they use like a single razor, which you can replace. They give you like a set of razors, and you can replace that single razor. And at the end, you can send the razors back, and you can purchase new razors. But obviously, it's that idea of recycling and that what's it called, reusing products, which I'm interested in buying a razor, but it's actually like $80, I think. So it is a bit pricey, but you're buying for, sustainability.
Which is perfectly okay. I mean, our generation in general is more willing to spend more money on sustainable products. In fact, I think we stated earlier that Forbes did a study, and they came to the conclusion that literally 54% of our generation is willing to have a surcharge of 10% and or more to be able to buy a sustainable product. And so when you look at that data, you realize that as a company, from an entrepreneurial perspective or a business owner perspective, that you actually have a 10% margin at least to be able to increase the cost of your products, to be able to create a sustainable product. So then you come in from that perspective and you say, okay, what can I do to help the environment, and what can I do to really start to be environmental sustainability instead of hurting the environment like we have in the past.
And ironically as well, the thing is, people might look at the short term, entrepreneurs might look at the short term and be like, okay, it's going to cost me money to increase the production of my product to become more eco-friendly, but I can almost guarantee that over time that will then decrease, right? Because in the long term, being more environmentally friendly is more of a win for a company, right? It's gonna give you a return at some point in whatever way it is. And so no, sorry. And I feel that actually, yes, in the short term it might cost a little more, but like the stat says, you can charge a bit more, and then the customer expects this price, but over time the cost of your product is going to decrease. So you are going to be earning more over time as your product ages through the product life cycle and stuff. And the other point I wanted to say is, like with Adira's thing, is it costs $80 now, right? But oh my goodness, I can guarantee you spent almost like $200 on razors already in your life. Like
That's like the point I wanted to make also. It's that a lot of us are focused like on that short term, like, oh, right now it's costing a lot of money. But if you look at it in the long run, we're spending more money and wasting more product by repeatedly buying these single-use razors and stuff like that, single-use products. And so, yeah, buying an $80 razor probably hurts your pocket now, but like Rio said, like spending like $200 on razors is way worse for you and the environment.
I want to kind of conclude with giving examples of that. I mean, you look at something like solar panels up front. I think Yadira stated earlier that she has solar panels on her house. And so like up front, those solar panels cost a lot of money. But one, there's a lot of subsidies for it from government that will help you pay for it. Two, the companies will often help you pay for the installation of those solar panels. And even if they don't, that upfront cost is going to be expensive. But actually, solar panels at about the 7 to 10 year mark will actually start making you a profit, because you'll be creating so much energy that a lot of the times your electricity bill will actually be negative, and some of that electricity actually will get sent to another house, and so you end up actually getting paid to have electricity. And that goes with everything. You look at a car. A Tesla might cost upfront a lot of money, but then you think about the cost of charging your car versus buying gasoline. Every time you go to the gas station for my vehicle, it costs me $60-$70 to fill up the gas tank. I bet you charging that Tesla is only like $5 to charge the car. So you think about the long term, and it's always gonna do a lot better than that short term. And so when we look at what we're doing for the environment, and at the same time what it actually does to our own long term investments and our money in the long term, it's actually worth it, and it almost always is worth it.
absolutely. And I think that's a lovely point to kind of conclude what this whole podcast has been about, in terms of becoming more aware and understanding that yeah, in the short term might cost a little bit more, but actually long term wise, it's definitely the way forward. And like, money aside, regardless of it, like, it's our responsibility to look after the earth. No, like, I just want to throw that out there. This is our responsibility to be environmentally friendly and impact the world and make it a better place.
Yep. What about your children? That's always the question I ask myself, is what about my children? What are they going to do when they're in a crappy world? And when I think about it through that, I always make decisions based on that.
Exactly. And Yadira, did you have a concluding point that you wanted to speak up about on the environment?
No, I would just like to say that, when, especially I feel like the consumerism in this country is just like, materialism, consumerism, it takes over everything. And so as consumers, we should be more mindful of what we're purchasing. And how much we're really investing into a product, because if we're investing into a product, it's most likely going to be more sustainable. And so we should just be aware of what we're buying, how much we're buying, do we really need it, and think of greener choices. And yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to conclude the podcast. Everybody should know by now where you can find us, but you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other podcasting platforms. But we definitely encourage you to head over to YouTube and watch the podcast more than anything. But without further ado, let's finish the podcast as we always do, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers for now.